I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Our friend David requested an album for us, and that album is by a band called Like Apes, The Body of Jesus Christ and the Legs of Tina Turner. Very evocative album title, as is the album cover.
Artwork to go with it.
And I think that that's very good. Now, Tom's done some research on Like Apes, so take it away, bud.
I mean, I'm definitely no expert on the band, but yeah, they've come out with a couple albums since, you know, I want to say 2008, I think their first album came out. This is like their second or third, along with some just like EPs and other work, to try to get to them to where they are. And they're still, you know, not a largely popular band. I hadn't heard of them before this request, so David, I appreciate that you are expanding my musical horizon with that. And but I ended up really liking this album, and it took me a while to really settle on what I liked and what I didn't like about it. And I'll tell you why. Because there are these two aspects here that at first were very much conjoined for me that I really had to separate before I realized that. And that's the overall attitude and how it works with the songwriting. Because I think the songwriting, the melodies, the way the songs are constructed, even when it comes down to the instrumentation they're using, which is largely synth-driven, even when they distort them to the point where it sounds like guitars a lot of the time, which is actually really cool. You hear Jake and I talk a lot about whenever you're going to use synths and electronic instruments like that, it's cool when you can blend them with real instruments and have this big conglomeration rather than just picking one or the other. And they do a great job of that. Also, like I said, very memorable melodies and everything. But where I have some problems was with the attitude and how authentic it was. Because you've got this vocalist, goes by the name May Kay, and to me she's like Karen O on crack. She's very just kind of angsty, and she comes off as being this kind of bad girl, but then she'll kind of flip-flop to this very sentimental side.
So she's a drunk crack, really.
Yeah, she kind of on these emotional highs and lows that you can't really pick. And I mean, it's not to the it's not to the extreme that, like we said about Eminem's album Recovery, where we couldn't decide whether he was cocky or feeling sorry for himself. But it's in that vein, where it's like, I don't know, I feel like she can't decide whether she's going to be sentimental and down to earth, or whether she's going to be in your face and be kind of a rebellious punk girl. I don't know which one, and it flip-flops too much for me to really attach to the album as a whole. But at the same time, I like a lot of these songs. I want to come back and listen to a lot of these songs, and I enjoyed the album for that reason overall.
Right, and to build on the authenticity issue and the whole believability of the songwriting and just the general presentation, these guys, specifically in the vocals, are going all over the place, over the top. Sometimes it works because the song has a more punk edge, but just like Tom said, sometimes it's just kind of wishy-washy. And the thing is, what really gets me is that sometimes it's even the lyrics. They go a little bit too far, like in the song Poached Eggs or Captain A-Bomb, you know. I just feel like sometimes it's just a little too just like they're trying to be ridiculous just to be frivolous and ridiculous, and to me that makes the sound just kind of unravel and sound unfocused. When these guys actually have a very it may not be very precise, but it is a focused sound. You know, it's concentrated. They have a plan of how they're delivering the music they're writing to you, and they're doing it to you, and you don't even realize it. And that's what Tom was talking about with the production of the electronics and making it sound like guitar and just in general. I mean, my point is that when the band doesn't focus on that, and when they have all these spastic lyrics and they're going off all over the place doing way over the top things, I think it just lowers the total value that you get out of the album. I mean, it's just not as authentic. It makes it just harder to relate to in general. It's something that you can put on in the background and really like. But overall, you know, back to the songwriting. The songwriting here, they do some really cool things, and specifically with just having these huge dynamics just pop out at you and just get really loud, and that's something that I really enjoyed, and just how spastic it was. These songs really flow at you. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it was hard for me to narrow down my track picks to 4, because I like a lot of these songs, but just for some reason for me, when you put them all together and you have the kind of in your face, I don't need you kind of rebellious songs, along with the kind of kind of song. Like it
makes there be a little track displacement. Even. And you and I think both favored the beginning of the album, so that kind of says something about the back end. And there's one track in particular that I really didn't get into very much, and I think that that's Waking Up with RoboCop.
The one with the samples?
Yeah, I just thought that was just horribly annoying. And that's the type of thing you get with this album. But overall, I think that this is actually a relatively solid album, just from the standpoint that it's a very original sound. They have a ton of intensity, attitude, great mood, and I just like how they go about it. It's just the whole scope and lyrics thing. I think that they could have done more with it, focused it just a little bit more. To me, I'm going with 77 because that's in that solid to good range. Nothing that blows my mind or is really good or like best thing I've heard in a long time. Just really good.
I'm going 78.
Right. So that puts us at exactly the same score of 78 via IMTV overall. What do you guys think of this album? This album has been around for a year to less than that if you're in the U.S. Interested to hear what you guys think. If you've listened to this, please leave us a comment at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Facebook, Twitter, do it. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.